say welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here today, and it's nice to see everybody's smiling faces. As you know, we're being recorded, and it will be available on our website. As I said before, we will have our little general meeting with an update on what's going on at CAA and with you. And then we'll take a 5-minute break and welcome, as I do now, excuse me, Adam, or AP Faust, for his presentation, which we're looking forward to. He is the director at Collinwald Fine Arts Center in Atlanta. So we're looking forward to hearing and seeing what he has to offer us. I want to just remind everybody that the May exhibit, Pushing Boundaries, is underway at the beautiful Betsy Lute Gallery in Burbank. And I want you all to know that we have plans to do a reception, a video reception, so it will be available to everyone after. And also, the exhibit should be online as well, like our past shows. So I want to reassure everybody that people that are not in our area will be included. And hopefully in the future, we'll be able to have a live Zoom with our receptions that are in gallery. Penny might want to bring us more up to date with some info or information.
Yeah, just one more note, Sylvia, that I muted everyone so that we don't deal with background noise, but as you speak, unmute yourself and then mute yourself back up again. And if there's any difficulty, put something in the chat and I'll try to deal with it. I'm the first time as host here because my sister wasn't able to be here today. So I'll do the best I can.
You are doing great.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just got some good news that probably you'll all get your notices by Wednesday regarding whether your work is in the show or not. And also just a reminder that there's going to be, the opening will be on May 5th from 7 to 9. And I don't know if anybody has been, probably a lot of you have been to the Betsy, but it's a really cute place. I think it's like arts and crafts style or deco. I can't exactly remember, but it's really nice. And hopefully, yes, hopefully you all come. There's lots of parking. And May 5th, 7 to 9 with the awards will be at 8. And hopefully our juror, Kathleen Chang Lu, will be able to be there. If not, Sylvia and I will make sure that everybody has a good time. So also one other thing, we are in the baby stages of planning the next show this year, which is going to be an online show. So we're going to be pretty much alternating moving forward. And if anybody has any questions, contact me.
September.
It's September, yes, the month of September. And that'll be online. Okay.
Jean, did you have something? You raised your hand for a minute. But you're muted. You have to unmute yourself. You're okay? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Penny. Yes, we're, as she said, prepping for that show, and we'll have a theme sometime soon and prospectus for you.
And no size limits. It's all going to be up to you because it's online. So sky's the limit. Maybe that's even going to be the theme.
Sky's the limit.
Yes.
Good. I like that.
Yeah, jot that down. I wanted to let's see, Barbara, the other Barbara's not here.
I think she is. I see her.
Oh, Barbara,
I see her. There she is. Unmute yourself, Barbara. Can you unmute yourself?
I don't see her.
Oh,
I-
yes, she's
she's-
right in the
She's
middle
there.
there.
She's right in the middle on my screen, but everybody's
Unmute
screens are
yourself,
different.
Barb. Munch,
You
unmute yourself.
Barbara,
You
do you
need-
want, she and I
Oh,
talked
there
about,
you're unmuted now. Hey, hi.
Hi, everybody.
You're covering
I'm just
some-
recuperating from a hip replacement. And I wanted to tell everybody that the Kathy Leader workshop was really fun. We all learned a lot, even those of us who are, been doing this for years. She has a website that I would go to. Her name is Kathy Leader, Leader. And you can kind of get a review of what we did in the workshop. And we're just now looking forward to the show. We're planning a reception for all of us who will be here, and those of you that won't, you will be. And wishing everybody a happy holidays coming up. And I will hopefully be walking at some point. But
Oh.
anyway, I just had physical therapy and I'm a little winded, but didn't want to miss the wonderful meeting. So here I am.
well, thank you, Barbara.
And you look wonderful.
As
You're
usual.
kidding.
You do,
uh,
you do.
Excuse me.
I have
every-
lipstick on.
There
Okay.
you go.
Wait a minute. I was in the middle of a sentence and it's very disturbing when everybody talks, especially when I'm trying to say something. You look beautiful nonetheless, Barbara. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for the update and the effort to be with us today. I know it's not easy when you're recovering.
It's okay.
So now let's, Suzanne is going to bring us some information and update on our new members.
Here we go. So hi again, everyone. Welcome and thanks so much for those of you who are here today, wherever you are. Lots going on weather-wise in California, as we who live here know. Today we've got wind, but sun, and we've had rain and snow and tornadoes of all things.
Hail.
We've had it all, and what used to be sunny Southern California weather has gone awry here. The very first thing on my agenda is announcing that CAA and I now have a savvy, wonderful new volunteer membership assistant, Patrice Goldberg. She lives in Orange, California, and she's with us. I think she's still in South Carolina. Anyway, so she's here with us today. And I'll tell you, without her self-starting capabilities and technical skills, I would have been under the water these last few weeks, because we have had so many last-minute applicants prior to our show deadline. Some became members, some decided to pend, and others decided to go elsewhere. But it's just been crazy. And several of you have actually communicated with her, because she just picked up and she said, I'm on it, and she was. So Patrice waved to everyone. She's up in the corner there on the right anyway. So let me get started. I'm really always thrilled to introduce our new members. We have 9 new members, and we have some renewing members. I see that Carol Pullman, I don't see her right now, but I see Carol. She's a renewing member at the last minute, but she's stuck in there. And giving a shout out to our pending guest applicants who may or may not be here. I don't see them. And we look forward to having them join us in July when the renewals start. So forgive me in advance if I mispronounce your name. And I want to welcome to CAA Sarah Esme. I see her. She's here from Pasadena, California. Another Patrice of all things, Patrice Gelband from Portola Valley, California. Jerry Greeton from Thousand Oaks, California. I see Jennifer here, Jennifer Lenifer from all the way from Omaha, Nebraska. Susie Malote from Vero Beach, Florida. Carol Orzak from Los Angeles, California. She's also a member of Women Painters West, so it's nice to see Carol. Bonnie Rutten from Palm Springs, California. James Ver, and that's ZVER from Los Angeles. And last but not least, Elaine Daly Birnbaum from Madison, Wisconsin. I don't see her here. So we'd like to invite any of our new members who are here today to introduce themselves. Put your name in the chat so that you can be called upon if you do want to say something. Now may be the time to do that. What do you think, Carol?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so if any of you would like to chat out, Jennifer, Esme, Sarah, Esme, put your hands up and say a few words. No? Okay.
Well, welcome.
Jennifer Lentfer.
Jennifer said she
Yeah.
wanted to share.
Oh, good.
Hello, hi, I'm Jennifer. Well, thank you for the warm welcome. I am an quote unquote emerging artist that's been arting a long time. I currently live in Omaha, Nebraska. I grew up in rural Nebraska, left as soon as I could, lived all around the world. Now I'm back. To retrieve some pieces of my soul, I left here when I fled and putting those back together. So a lot of my collage themes are around retelling new mythologies of the middle and of whiteness. And I don't buy anything. I'm committed to not buying a damn thing except rubber cement and ads and dimension. I don't do it for like environmental reasons. I do it for the challenge and the constraint of it, and for the deconstruction elements of like taking a magazine, for example, that's, you know, sort of trying to sell us good life and create something new out of it. So yeah, happy to be here, and thanks for all of this tremendous work that I'm excited to learn more about.
That's great. Thank you, Jennifer. I'll tell you, we are really getting some talented collage artists. So our competition is getting steeper and steeper with these wonderful new members. What about you, Sarah? You want to say something?
Sure. Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Sarah. I am new to California. I was in New York before this. And I'm really excited to be here. I normally, collage has always been a personal kind of endeavor for me. And I've gifted, you know, collages to friends and family, but I have very little experience kind of putting my work out into the world. So this is my membership here is a part of that, part of, you know, trying something new and getting my work seen by others and being in community with others. So thank you.
Welcome to you both.
That's great. I also want to take a moment before I sign off here to acknowledge Wendy Tigerman. She's the past CAA president and currently our venerable Facebook page admin. We have over 12,000 inspiring collage members. And if any of you are on Facebook and haven't joined our page, please do so and share your work. It's an inspiration to go on there every day and see these works. So since our newsletter chair is traveling today and cannot be with us. I want to turn the program back to our PR chair, coming all the way from the UK, Lauren Reckner. We all love her so much, and she's just really an inspiration to all of us. So, Lauren.
Hi. Yes, hi everyone. Thank you, Suzanne. You do such an amazing job with the membership. And Patrice, hi, it's so nice to see you. And thank you so much for your help. I know it's a huge, wonderful, amazing thing that you're here. So thank you. Since Quaylin is not here today, she is our wonderful newsletter editor. And I just wanted to share a bit about the newsletter. So it comes out each month, and the deadline to have your news included is the 2nd of the month. And it's a fabulous publication. Quaylin spends so much time on each one, and they're all archived on our website. So I highly encourage everyone to go have a look through. So if anyone has any images, announcements about shows you're in or an exhibit that you would like to share for other artists to have the opportunity to enter their work, please share it with Quaylin so she can include it in the newsletter, and I will put her email in the chat for everyone. And that's also on our website for you to find as well. So on publicity news, Quaylin's past February newsletter shared about an article written on CAA by the Courtauld Institute of Art, the newspaper team. So I'm currently, as Suzanne said, I'm currently in London working on my master's in art history here at the Courtauld. And when I was asked to do a little interview, I just thought I would share as much as I could about our lovely group. So it's a great piece just about our community and a little bit more about everyone's work. So I will also include a link to that article just in case you haven't seen it already. And I'll also share the link for our Facebook page so you can join if you haven't. So yeah, it's just so fun to be here with all of you, and I will pass it on to Sylvia again. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, so the article that was published was very exciting and really did a nice coverage for Collage Artists of America. And thank you for doing that, Lauren. I want to first ask if there's any other CAA news that I might have missed someone. And then if not, we'll go on to anybody who would like to make an announcement about what's going on with them exhibits or events that you might want to share. So just what shall we do? Raise your hand or go on chat to if you wish to speak.
It probably in chat because it's hard to see. I think we might be on 2 pages or just on 1 page, but go in chat or raise your hand. We'll find you.
And yes, any announcements, anything that you're doing that's special that you want to share with us? And are you in an exhibit, or do you have a nice project that you're working on that you want to tell us about? Very quiet today. Oh, yes. Okay. SP Harper.
There, I just unmuted. Greetings and welcome new members. Yes. Oh, at Gallery 825, the Los Angeles Art Association, which some of you might be interested in and maybe joining. It's a great group. Their gallery is on La Cienega. They currently have a show called Chestnut, and it's a juried show. And one of my ecocentric paintings is in that show. It's made up of linen napkins, and we're going to have an art talk on this coming Saturday, April 1st at 11 o'clock, and you're all invited to come, and I will film it and I'll probably put it on YouTube afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. That's fun to know, and another event that we could look forward to doing or going to. Anybody else would like to tell us about what's happening with you?
Okay. In the
Carol?
chat, let me just go look at it again. Got too many
Oh.
things going on.
Oh, I
There
see.
was,
Suzanne was Susie.
Yeah,
Can
I'm
you
in
tell-
a couple of shows. I put my name in there. Carol, you're
some-
muted.
Somebody wanted for you to type in the location and name of the gallery you were telling us about.
right, and then Suzanne
SB.
has,
Yeah,
yeah, that was SB, yeah.
yeah, and
Yes,
SB.
I'll do that right now.
And then tell us how we can join 825. I know I tried to get in a couple of times, long time ago when they were somewhere else. But,
They're very
yeah.
open for new members, and there's like 300 to 400 members. I'll put in
Goodness.
their website and just get on their email, and they invite artists to join. I would say about 4 to 5 times a year. So
Yeah.
I will put all of that in the chat, everybody.
Great.
Oh,
I'd love to see you all there.
So they're very active. You guys
Very
have a
active.
lot of shows.
Yes.
Okay, since I'm on here, I'm in a couple of shows right now. One is a Women's Painters West show called Portraits, which I think is there until May 7th, if I'm not mistaken. There, Sylvia's in that show too. It is in a 100-year-old heritage building called the California Heritage Museum in Santa Monica. It's a wonderful show. All portraits, paintings, collage, all kinds of things. So if anybody is in Santa Monica and wants to trek over there, it's in between Venice and Santa Monica on Main Street. I'm also in an invitational show at UBS, which is a bank, UBS Bank, out in West Hills in California. And I have 4 of my digital photo collages there. It's a beautiful show and they have beautiful offices. And that is up until I think the end of April as well.
good. That's great. Anyone else? Oh, Jean, is anyone in a show? Please post a link so we can see the details. Okay, that was a message from Jean Hess.
Jean, you're in the show. You should talk about your show.
I'm in that heritage show and also at Valley Watercolor Society show in Thousand Oaks Art Gallery.
Good. You did my show in the newsletter. You got all that information, but I would love when you're in a show, give us an image or something to click on so we can see what you're talking about.
Oh, good idea. Thanks.
See your work, man.
Thanks, Jean. Anyone else? Okay, well, I think that we could take our little 5-minute break and then come back for our wonderful speaker, AP, excuse me. And there you are. So we'll take
Okay.
a 5-minute break and it will be only 5 minutes. So quick, do what you need to do or chat if you want to.
And I will unmute everybody so that they can chat. Right.
And then,
Let's see.
so we'll be back at 11:35.
Let's see if I can figure out now how to unmute everybody.
Wherever you are, 5 minutes.
See y'all
Mute
soon.
all. Invite, not sure how, I'll ask all to unmute. Okay, everybody, I think everybody, if you want to talk, unmute yourself because I can't find the place to do it.
Carol?
Hey, Jennifer Letterford, do you have something, a piece of your work there you could put up in the camera?
Hmm.
I mean, I don't feel like I know anyone until I see what they do.
Sure. Let me go grab a couple things.
Grab something.
Hold on 1 second.
And that goes for anyone else who's new, who, if we have 5 minutes. And AP, we're all set up for you. We're ready to roll.
Yep, I'm good to go. Just making little notes here, but ready when.
Well, I've rewritten my intro, so.
Yeah.
Time makes changes.
All we have is right this moment, right?
Oh, good. Here's SP Harper. Great.
Oh, that's great.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Love it. What size is that?
Thank you. 30 by 30?
SP, you're on mute. Unmute yourself, please.
This is I'm ecocentric. This is painted on a tablecloth. You can see.
Ooh.
And it's a
Wow.
brilliant cut diamond. My grandfather's a diamond cutter, so I just like it as a muse, kind of a graphic. And the current one that's in the show, it's similar to this, but it's linen napkins sewn together. It kind of feels a little bit like a patchwork. So it's similar to this kind of a thing. Again, I have to coat everything with 3 coats of clear gesso, but I'm ecocentric, so I'm always recycling bits and things that need to be upcycled. Thank
Great.
you, everybody.
I love the red in there.
That's called fire in a brilliant cut. Any kind of prism is fire, and the brightness is called brilliance, and the outside's called luster. There you
love
go.
it.
Yeah, thank you. I just grabbed what was in literally my ability to grab.
Grabbable area.
So this little one has some poetry integrated. I'm also a poet. All of them kind of have a quilt. Someone has told me once you have a quilty aspect.
Mhm.
Oh,
See
yeah.
that?
Cool.
Well, it's like a 9 square sort of.
And I love working small scale, and I'm doing some more sculptural stuff these days, and it's interesting.
Everybody post more.
This is like a little diorama. I got into dioramas for a while recently, and this is just a little safe spot for little me.
Oh,
I love it.
Yep.
did Carol Pullman just put something up?
I
Carol?
don't think you can see it because it's, I can't make it smaller. I don't know how to do that.
Well, we can see you.
We can see
Interesting.
you, just
See,
it's behind you.
maybe I
Just
should take
duck
me
your
out
head
of
a
it.
little.
Just hold it up.
Oh, wow.
Woohoo!
Cool.
Oh, maybe, I don't know if maybe I can do that. I never thought about that. You guys are so clever.
Carol.
You
Good to
are.
see you, Carol. Good to see
Saying
you.
it is one thing, doing it
If
is.
I do this, is that, oh, I don't think you could,
No,
it
you know what,
doesn't.
you have to get rid of your
won't s-
background, because what happens, put it right in front of your face, see what happens. Right, because
Oh.
we can't see
Yeah.
it, it gets blotted out by your background.
I got it. Okay, well, don't worry, come back to me and I'll see if I can figure this out, because I'm obviously
Right.
not able
Just-
to do this.
Just
Put
blur
no
your
background,
background.
and then we'll be able to see it.
Yeah, blur your background.
Even
have
the
to get my
blurring is not
background.
gonna work as well as no background, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Choose
Yeah.
background and say,
5 minutes is up.
Oh,
all right, let's go to work, because I think that's more important.
Okay,
You can do it afterwards. We have plenty of time after our speakers.
You
for
know,
everything.
I don't have that much invested in, I do it because, I do, usually do watercolors, Carol knows, but I find that after I finish one, sometimes just
You know,
the activity of doing the collage is like, it lets a lot of energy go, and it gives me a sense of calm. I just go through it, and I don't have to, I can just let it happen, because I took a class a long time ago from a gal named Alexandra Sheldon, who's and she was very loose about her collage, and she really said, just start putting something down. Don't think about it too long. And so that's what I do. And I have to tell you, it's been fabulous. It's been such a released calming effect to me.
And I can vouch for that because Carol's got the best eye in the world, and she, for just starting collage, has some of the most amazing work I've seen. So.
Oh, you're a sweetheart, you know.
Carol, you
We have a
lot-
little love affair going. I think you should know that.
Hold on one
It's okay
second.
because Joel's included.
Carol, do you know you've taken your image off if you want to start your video again? Anyway,
More
Jean-
important is the meeting.
all right, everyone.
Yeah, we need to get to
mute-
the speaker now.
Mute yourselves, please. Everybody mute yourselves except Jean Hess and AP. Please,
Okay, I'm gonna mute everybody.
mute everybody, please.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, Jean and AP.
Okay, I'm going to introduce our wonderful speaker. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm speaking myself for a generation that I think is in the long past when we worried about things like personalities and fame and, you know, our personal reputation as an artist, art stardom, that sort of thing. I think of the Abex guys and, you know, big gestures and lots of gallery and studio real estate. And I think what we have here now with young artists like AP is a sort of a new template, a new template for being an artist. He comes from a scene that's a lot more fluid and catalytic than what I'm referring to. Very inclusive. There's a lot of boundary crossing. He collaborates a lot with other artists. The things they do often stretch over periods of time. They reach out into the community. There's a blending. He'll blend his marks with marks made by other artists and other people. And as a result, I find it very exciting that there are often loose ends. The work may not even last. It might be ephemeral. It leads me ultimately to think that categories like collage may be a little too limiting now. And we can follow people like AP into a future where even categories like that are a little harder to pin down. AP Faust refers to himself as a jack of all trades, which I think is putting it mildly. He tries lots of new media. I would use the word bricoleur to describe people like him more than collage. It's what I might call the collage tradition on steroids. The proof is he was willing to pinch hit for us today on a week's notice. And thank you for doing that. Because he's flexible, like his generation. He himself says that his practice is anti-formulaic, impulsive, experimental. He's heavily influenced by the Dadists, by Gestalt principles, which suggests to all of us that he believes in the timeless connectedness of all things. I think that's a really good way of summing it all up. On the serious side, the man is also in charge of a variety of really cool programs at the very venerable Callenwold Fine Arts Center in Atlanta. He runs the gallery, he curates very interesting shows, and you don't need to hear from me anymore, you need to hear from him. Here he is, AP Faust.
I love hearing from you, Gene. I feel like you can just keep it coming. No, thank you so much for that intro. I'm really excited to be here and, you know, have just sort of in the nature of the way that a lot of what I create is created, have like thrown a lot of things together And I'm going to show you that now via this presentation. So let me make sure I have my screen shared for you. I believe it is this one. Okay, can y'all see this?
Yes, we can.
All
We
right.
can see that you're going to be sharing. Yeah.
Do you see all of my background and my whole notes, or just the
Nope,
presentation?
just the black screen saying AP has started sharing.
Okay. Hold on one second. It should be. Okay, can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
AP, 1 second. Let me let everybody know that they can put any questions in the chat.
Mhm.
If it's anything that's really pertinent and they raise their hand, you're okay with them asking a question right then and there, but other superfluous stuff goes in the chat. Is that?
Sure, yeah,
Does that
if I
work
need
for
to
you?
clarify, or if you didn't hear something I said, I'm happy to repeat that. But questions about like expanding and other ways of the the process, or tell me more about this, I think I want to save those for the end because I'm kind of easily sidetracked.
Perfect. Okay.
So,
I mean, you're right. I understand that. But
cool.
that's great. It gives us parameters then for people to know how to pose questions. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So yeah, I am Adam P. Faust, AP Faust, professionally, and I am an artist, creativity facilitator, jack of all trades, and this is my creative practice. So I've thrown together just a couple images. I'll get into this group project here. As you know, the title image that's over another experiment that I'll share with you, and then a little collage work because I'm excited to be here with the collage artists of America here. So I want to start by saying I see collage everywhere. I have what I consider a collage lens in which I view the world. In just doing collage over the years, I have just come to notice that I enjoy applying the principles of paper and glue and scissors and ripping, and applying those principles to larger scenarios in life. So these are some examples of where I see collage. So in the consequence of unexpected context, like when taxidermied animals show up for the wedding and there's a bobcat in the cold kitchen. Like just random forced things that don't typically go together is what I consider that sort of a collage moment, or where someone has interacted with the world around them, by trying to like fight erosion with this just haphazard way of putting sticks in, and these little happenings of like this little accident just left behind just reads as a collage to me. And I often find myself being drawn to moments of sort of randomness or absurdity, and also materials. When I say absurdity, I think of that as in defying logic or without reason, like wildly without reason. Getting into some of the impulsiveness and ridiculousness, and that may ring a bell for those of you who are familiar with Dada, and I'll speak more on that later. But like this pine cone in a plastic bag, like why on earth is there a pine cone in a plastic bag? I will say I noticed after I put this image in here and cropped it a little bit that there's a paintbrush, and this is probably a children's art project, but I didn't see that when I was organizing this. So it really just was like this absurd moment. And then my process is additive and redactive, and the resulting textures of forcing interactions and is where an area of interest lies for me. So a little bit on that jack of all trades. This is some work from my business, Adam Good Job. This is what I was doing before I started working at Callenwald. I'm still doing some of this freelance work these days, but you can kind of see this collage of all different things that I, originally started with. And as I built my business up, I was able to kind of focus in on painting, specialty painting, murals, signage, and then art installation and the more creative roles. So I kind of hesitate to use the handyman box label, but I did have a niche like in the services industry, and sometimes was fixing drywall, but much preferred to do these more creative projects that I've shown here. And just want to highlight the how crisp and clean and focused everything is. And I think as I got better at doing that kind of work, my own personal studio practice just got more and more chaotic and off the wall. And I see that as a sort of balance to the umbrella that is like my entire creative process. So some shots from the studio here to just sort of add more context. I'm always interested in what tools and materials people use. So I have the sponge is the newest addition to my setup. And I have to give a shout out to Gene for was it last month or earlier this year when you gave a presentation and you gave a quick rundown of gluing and wetting the paper. I got myself a big sponge to assist in that and have stepped up my gluing game. So I just want to say that I love, being in community and getting little tips and tricks like that. So I have my gel medium here, my glue stick, some drawing utensils to kind of embellish. I use scalpel blades in my collage work. They're a little finer, sharper than the X-Actos and much cheaper, and fit in the same holders as the X-Acto. I just order them online and they come sterilized and individually wrapped, which may not be necessary for this medium, but I don't know. I like to highlight that because somebody, put that on my radar before. So and then I just sort of modes of organization. So the X at the bottom is for scraps that I find interesting. The triangle is for pieces that I've cut. And then the I here is more for text and lingo, because I've started to incorporate some text into my work and have done exercises where I use collage as a means to assist in writing, specifically like music and songs. And I heard that David Bowie's famous, like, "I'm an alligator" line was cut out of a magazine, that he didn't actually write that. And that sort of inspired me to expand my collage practice and sort of incorporate some of my other creative endeavors, kind of blur the lines between those mediums. So in the middle here, I have sort of my studio rules and reminders. So you can see, those there. I'll get into the creating and analyzing and how those are different processes a little bit later. The main things I want to highlight is this sort of ebb and flow of chaos and order is a pattern that I've noticed and something that I want to lean into. Play is a big one. And then I have here, keep things interesting, but also keep interesting things. And, kind of a testament to just like cutting things out and moving them around. And that's sort of the decision maker for whether or not I keep something or if it goes in the trash bin. Is like, is it interesting? You can see kind of the chaos of putting this together and trying to find, tidy the chaos, like find the thread and follow is its own thing, but there's overlap here, and acknowledge that. And then this image is just sort of a testament to the playful nature and the sort of nonsensical, absurd, Dadaist. Like, this is not a piece that I'm, entering into shows, or that I have a ton of, interest in putting on a website or social media, but I'll show it to you all as sort of a testament to how things work in my studio, where things are just moving around, and this is not glued together. This is an ephemeral work that's just held together by friction, up on the wall. So that kind of ties into my rule of working, is just to do something. Like, don't even think about it. If I have something I know I need to do, then that's great. But instead of just sitting there and thinking and waiting for this epiphany or this aha moment, I would rather just like get this cast off from a paint job and this piece of trash I found, and just start putting things together and see where that takes me. Starting with working and just seeing what comes. So a quick rundown on Dadaism, and I got a couple more slides and we'll get into some of my work. But what's then, I could do a whole presentation on Dadaism, but what kind of sticks out, these key points for me, are the exploration of the unconscious and sort of tapping into absurdity and not being logical as a way to bring out deeper feelings and meaning in a work or in life. The Dada's favorite, experimentation, and embrace change and randomness. And I think someone just mentioned this earlier, but not thinking so much about it, not doing all this analyzing and just creating. There's a time for analyzing, there's a time for creating. It's okay to analyze your creative work, but those are two different processes that happen in two different parts of the brain. And it's important to separate those and have moments where you're not analyzing what you're creating. You're just going for it. You're doing something. Doesn't mean you're doing something good or beautiful, but doing something to kind of get the wheels turning and the ball rolling. Yeah, I'll speak more on kind of the ties I have to Dadaism and when my work started to really incorporate some of those key principles. And just mentioning Gestalt as well. This is principles of design, and it kind of is an investigation or acknowledges the way that our brain sees images. And this is kind of in contrast to traditional design principles or design rules, such as like the rule of third. A good design is broken into thirds, or the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio. These principles were identified around the same time that Dadaism was happening, which I find, really interesting. And, a lot of times you'll hear that a collage work or anything is greater than the sum of its parts. The German psychologists in the 1920s who were identifying these principles stressed that it's not always greater, because it's not always addition, but it's different. Gestalt principles recognize the relationship of elements in a composition and the way our mind explores those relationships. So there's different ways that that happens, such as this tree. We can see this tree as being, or this shape actually, as a tree, and that it's in the foreground of the A. Or our brain reads this line that's going through the S as one continuous line. But if we look closely, we notice that it's three different chunks. But Gestalt is interested in the fact that our brain continues that line. And again, there's like a lot to be unpacked here. That's just a quick rundown, because those words are in my intro. So I just want to make sure that there's somewhat of a foundation there to explore the works. And this is sort of a quick little doodle on the creative process, or my creative process. I think sometimes there's this linear, or this thought of like a linear creative process where you start with an idea that's supposed to be, scribbled in a yellow highlighter. I'm not sure why it's gray, but and then you do everything you got to do, and then you have a piece and it fits in this little rectangle, and that is the creative process. Or you have an idea and you start on it and then you hate it, and then you climb out of that hole, and then it gets weird, and then you end up with a piece. I think that my process more looks like this third one, where there's ideas all over the place. There's pieces that, you know, jump out. There's pieces that get reincorporated into new ideas. And there's just sort of this chaotic vortex of creative energy happening that then sometimes spurts out these full pieces, which, you know, may or may not be finished. This is a quick sort of reference to that, how it's nonlinear, that this piece was, you know, something I threw together several years ago. And, you know, I'm back at a point where I feel like this is unfinished, where I've like added so much more and then have ripped it off and redone it and incorporated more paint, and just sort of a visual testament to what I mean by going back into an older work. And I say that I live here in the gray area. My interest lies, you know, where things are not black and white, where opposites have come together, opposites such as black and white, you know, things that aren't quote unquote supposed to go together, being put together, and how that raises questions, and how the questions for me are more important than a straightforward answer when it comes to art. So yeah, now for the art. So I like to start back in 2014. I completed my senior thesis with a focus in sculpture at Guilford College in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I was doing a lot of found object and assemblage works with a combination of these like masculine and feminine traditionally elements, and these sort of exploring how in my life and when I think back on my childhood, I had these two spaces where I would spend time in my mother's sewing room. So you see the sewing pins here and the yarn, and in this particular piece, some more yarn that's been finger knitted back here, but also the sort of expanse that is the woods outside. And so for the thesis, I was combining the things that you find in both of those places with actual items that I found out in the woods in various states of decay, and, you know, natural materials here, and sort of these like mystery materials of, you know, there's a lot of questions on like, what is that? And, you know, creating interest, creating questions, which I will spoil it for you here. These are piano strings. And, you know, looking at, you know, soft and hard and forcing those together, and sort of what comes, and more examples of that, you know, interior and exterior space, and, you know, the fiber fill and the sort of nods to childhood and nostalgia with the stuffed animals. And this, even, you know, back then, I didn't have this articulated at the time, but there was still the elements of reworking old works and things, you know, being finished temporarily. This was probably a 14-foot scarf that I knitted, and I put it flowing out of a steel box that was on top of a flagpole. And so it's about 15 feet high, and this knitted form is coming out of the steel. And that was just for a sculpture assignment. And Guilford College campus sits on about 40 acres of woods. And it could be more than that. Don't quote me on the numbers, but I, you know, dismantled that project after our critique, and sort of just went out into the woods and installed the scarf in a tree. And then that was, I think, my sophomore year of college. And then my senior year, while I was doing my thesis and walking out through those woods looking for materials, I found the same scarf just completely tattered and torn and in a totally different location. And so I was really interested in that kind of story that this item took on. And I didn't know all of the elements. I thought that was really interesting. And then, brought it back to the studio, and it got incorporated into this work again. And I don't have the detail shot here, but and I wish that, I'm not sure if these are showing up super pixelated. I wish they were a little clearer, but using light on the interior space. And if you look through the crevices of this box, there's a little scene going on there where there's a little thimble that's filled with moss that's lit and growing and sprouting, and forcing these opposites of life and death, and realizing that as I was processing some grief that year, realizing this thesis project really helped me realize how all of that is connected, that these things aren't separate, as we sometimes like to refer to them. So someone might not look in there to see that little scene, but I like to put little details and little rewards for people who look closely and start far away from the room and end up getting just inches away from the piece. That's where I find like that a work is successful if I have someone that can look at it from across the room, but also just like as close as they can possibly get. I love that. So my artwork has always been a reflection of where I am in the world, physically and metaphorically, on a life journey, but also like, what does my studio space look like? And I drive that creative force through connection and intuition and impulse. There's many iterations, and what we see displayed is sort of just one moment in the timeline. So related to that is the fact that when you graduate from college, where you have a garage-sized studio space where you can go out into the woods and bring in 10-foot branches and rusty steel and animal parts and all of that. When you graduate, you lose that and move back into your parents' house, and suddenly we're at a desk and in a room, and I knew that my creative practice was gonna to change after graduating, and that's when I sort of got really into collage as we know it, and was able to do the same sort of juxtapositions and finding things and creating these new relationships and narratives, and I was able to do that in a flat space, compared to the more three-dimensional expanse that I had been working with. So we're transitioning into collage now. This was around 2014. I was really interested in surrealism. I was really interested in the added sort of technical feats that came with collage, in terms of like how accurately something can be cut out. And this chain I think took about 6 hours to cut, which doesn't seem like a huge deal to me now, but at the time, like, most things were so quick. The cloud certainly didn't take 6 seconds maybe, but to put that amount of time into a piece of paper was interesting. And creating these characters and creating these stories based off just whatever elements I pull out of a folder or a magazine, or like this one on the right is based off of a dream I had where I was walking through the neighborhood I grew up in, and was approached by a coyote that like basically came after me, and the only way that I was able to tame this coyote was to like fully embrace it and just to hold on to it. And we ended up falling asleep, and then I woke up, and the coyote was just completely calm. So that was the dream that then the elements started to form that next day when I was working on some collage. And so again, that surrealist, dream, unconscious mind, and still some explorations of masculine, feminine, and just creating new context for things to exist in. So this is, a bit earlier than that, just to mention that kind of all of this is happening simultaneously, and again, not very linearly. This project was done while I was helping a friend make cover art for their music that they made. And this is not the cover art that we went with, but just in that process, again, like this sort of like chaotic elements, this came out, and then, their cover art came out in a different form. But showing this one to mention that, I was doing collage before I, considered myself a collage artist, but also this is what I consider a sculptural work, because this is two sides of the same postcard. This rip here, these two pieces, the backside is these two pieces here. And I, found interest in kind of breaking the mold of how we view the work, that acknowledging that this is a three-dimensional, even though it's flat, acknowledging that it exists in space and that there's two sides to it. And, that to me sort of is like tiptoeing the lines between collage or image and sculpture. I also just think it's funny and kind of a play on like dual meanings and wordplay, that, these elements are all sharing space, but like space imagery is also so common in collage that they're like literally sharing this page of space, but also, space as like the galaxy, they're sharing that galaxy as well. So just sort of like little moments like that I find interesting, or even slightly like humorous like that, tend to stick around. So this is more of that earlier work, character oriented, not really super complex, but I was operating under the sort of guise that if someone saw my work and thought that it was a digital piece, that I thought that was a successful work. And, if it was, this could be a photoshopped element. If people would come up and ask if that was Photoshop, I'd be like, that I did a good job, because technically, you can't, it's become one image. But I've certainly sort of expanded on that. I can't say that I've like rejected that completely. I still think that there's an element of technical skill to collage that I really enjoy. But I have since come to lean into the medium and the materials. And I'll show you examples later where I'm including margins or text from the magazine, and highlighting the materiality of the paper by including rips and decollage. But I do some digital work as well, through that collage lens. This is some more music cover art that I've worked on. This one on the left side is very, has a foundation, is very analog. These are analog pieces, physical pieces of paper that I made and scanned and then just added the text. And then this one is all digital, but there's some elements of collage to be had here with this line. I think was a photo of some scraps and the color play, but completely digital, but with the hard lines, it kind of has that influence of analog collage. And other ways that I incorporate collage into digital work, this is a show flyer for some bands that played a show here in Atlanta. And you see I started with the magazine paper here, scanned it in and moved it around on the scanner, and then added the text I needed, and then printed it out and ripped it up, cut it up, rearranged it with the original image, and then rescanned that as the final output. So I really appreciate the tactility of collage, and the lack of screen, to be honest. If I didn't feel that like I was just burning my eyeballs anytime I'm looking at a screen, I may be more into digital, but I just love working with my hands so much that I haven't really been bit by like the digital bug that, I haven't really been as captivated by working digitally, but I'll do it when it makes sense for the ends that I'm trying to achieve. So here we have some political and social commentary. Collage and Dadaist can kind of lean itself towards that. So this one is tiny. It's on a stamp. I'm also really interested in how you can make a complex narrative with very simple means. These are not really complex images, but the ideas and the stories and the questions that they raise, I think, can be very convoluted and very complex, even though that this is just one small paper scrap on a stamp, but then we have the fact that it's a stamp and that envelopes get sent to other places. And now this soldier is getting sent somewhere. And, are we, how long are we going to be in war? Dadaism was sort of operating on the thought that if being logical and reasonable has gotten us to this state where we are just like in constant war, and there's famine and there's just so much like repression, then we need to be as absurd as possible. And they also used collage as a means to make commentary on the decisions that the leaders of the world were making. This one on the right is a little bit more of a social commentary, after just seeing an uptick in the amount of conspiracy theories and just sort of the ridiculousness of the flat earth YouTube videos and I don't know what anyone here believes. I'm to each their own, but this just was fun to me to put Dopey staring at the earth as being flat. Just instantly kind of creates this narrative. And this, I wasn't necessarily setting out to make propaganda or make these social commentaries, but it does happen. And I think that it happens when you use political imagery or these recognizable figures, whatever happens is going to be extremely convoluted and is gonna be really charged. So I could put anything on this man's face and it becomes a commentary. I mean, before I put this like bomb figure, there was a like naked mole rat on top of his face was one iteration, and that was like just sort of an absurd gesture as well. And I don't, this is some religious imagery and combining that with money, which is also so recognizable. I don't know exactly what the critique is here, but it's clear that it's not the original intention of what those images were printed for. So I think that raising those questions is a good thing. I don't try to present any answers. It's all in the questions and raising those questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on from that one. So all of these sort of observations and classifications are sort of after the fact. The work just sort of flows and then is analyzed later. But I'm interested and find myself exploring like dual meanings. Again, this is not a very complex image, but sandwiched. The way houses are built and just sandwiched in, and just sort of how, I don't know, this becomes sort of like grotesque at a certain point. And so that's sort of an outward look, and then more inward works where it's a figure without a face sort of reads to me as sort of self-portraiture. And what was I going through at this period in my life that I felt torn or ripped or that there's this aspect of like fading, or and I again don't have like the answer for that, but I can see this image and think that it speaks to a particular feeling. There's a lot of vulnerability here, and there's a lot of texture, and texture being a result of an interaction is what's interesting to me. And I think that these are outward observations, but also outward experiences, and then also inward observations and inward experience, and all of that sort of mixes together. And then these are just examples of like quick collage works that come from that process. Again, more forcing differences, and how can we hold those simultaneously. Some more examples of using text, and sort of forcing the opposites of man versus machine. And I'm just like very interested in, again, the relationship between different elements. This is not like in any way using the golden ratio in my mind, intentionally anyway. But there's like the interest lies in the relationship, and how this little hand is all of a sudden creating this fold of the eyelid, and touching this like robotic eye. And a question of like, does this feel that, just sort of forcing this is kind of a little abject in a way. There's this uncomfortableness to these images. I don't think that this is like particularly profound to like put a spider in a beard, but like noticing the similarities, and then like putting those together, and see sort of what comes, and playing with scale, right? Like we adding the spider makes this man much larger. And I find interest in how one element can bring change to another element. And the forced relationship of the word joy over a face that's clearly not experiencing joy. And how simply now we get into conversations of like masking and presenting, joyfully, and how we really, there's conversations to be had. A lot of times I'm having these conversations myself, but I'm happy that y'all are here. So more work that is kind of succinct. We refer to it as like the economy of means. If we're saying, something in 10 paragraphs that we could have said in 10 words, is there a reason for that? I tend to gravitate more towards the 10 words sort of metaphor, and towards the simplicity. At least at this stage, you'll see how I get into more of like several books all at once. So this is an image of just my own creation, and these other two are commissioned works. This happened during a boil. This image was created during a boil advisory in Atlanta, which I think it was like the third one in like a really short period of time. And I was just kind of tongue in cheek, again, kind of humorous, kind of propaganda-y. Like, water is dangerous, drink Coca-Cola, because the water in Atlanta is dangerous. Like, don't drink the tap water here, drink Coca-Cola. Like, just kind of funny to me. And then this is responding to the prompt of a friend of mine commissioned me to make a collage work that had a pretty face and a nice ripped edge. And so that's what came of this one. And then this is a series that another friend saved from a dumpster. Their friend had taken these black and white images and wanted me to add collage elements, in part to sort of cover up the male gaze that was happening in those images, and sort of create new narratives around those works. I think it was kind of one of those situations where like the frame is really nice, so you buy the whole thing. But in this case, he had rescued it from a dumpster, and I revamped a series of works. So as I progress, you know, in collage, I have gotten more complex at times, similar sort of themes, but more elements at play. So here's an example of some of that. Similar textures with the fish scales and the leaves here, the layering of the silhouette, and again, including the margin here as a design element, and some text on this one. It says anatomy of the smile, and how, to me, that is just like poetic and interesting when removed of the context of being in a like medical book. And then it says telling a story here, sort of the Dadaist like randomness of words. Here it says spurious, smooth, roundness. And the you know, like that kind of thing happening is sort of a testament to the Dadaist principles as well. Here I've got some more narratives and characters, some texture explorations. And here is sort of what I was talking about, of incorporating the materiality in the magazine and the margins. And this is all one page again, you know, one of the fold out pages, a full spread, and then you know, just a couple additional elements to create a narrative, and some detailed shots of that one here. This one again, from last time I heard Jean speak, she mentioned skew. We have these sort of folds in the paper, and this was from a cheaper magazine, so there's some translucence there, and but the similarity in colors kind of tie the scene together. And you know, again, political or social commentary of you know, what money does, how it can be parasitic, you know, to our environment, and you know, while still leaving in these ripped edges and these torn sort of testaments to the medium. This is another just fun example of changing narratives and adding texture. This one is probably from the 50s, maybe 70s. I can't recall, but you know, our Bahamas, like obviously the Bahamas does not belong to these two people. Let's get rid of that notion, and just do something that's a little bit more abstract. You know, similar colors, and just sort of fade these folks out a little bit, but just to a certain point. That for me, there's interest here, in what this image, you know, is, was, or could be. So now I'm getting into more recent works. The sort of Dadaist impulsive explorations, where here I'm thinking about blurring the lines between painting and collage. And I have these canvases, and you know, just sort of impulsively adding layers and layers and layers and doodles, and you know, there's some image transfer happening here, and in here, and then you know, this texture and this image or this canvas was torn at some point. I don't remember why, but or how, but then also shot with a BB gun, and more holes added, and none of, I can't make sense of that for you. That's all just like impulsive leanings, and exploring how to kind of like add and take away, and just sort of force things together, and a reminder that this is in contrast to as my business is started taking off, and I'm doing a lot more like very clean, very clear instructions on what something is supposed to look like. Letters have to be, you know, borderline perfect to read well, and you know, this instead is just like this scrap and this scrap, and just going. And this is an image transfer that hasn't fully rubbed off, and this is an image transfer, and this is a little bit more paint added on top, and just interesting to look at to me, interesting visually. There's a little bit more narrative for me here, but again, it's just like forcing materials together and not asking too many questions, but seeing what questions come up, and not pretending like I have the answers. So we have scraps of sandpaper, we have the like drywall mud, spackle, sandpaper again, some clear glazes, some duct tape, old rags from different jobs, and kind of tearing up the canvas. Again, a nod to the sewing pins that are making another appearance, and space making another appearance. And maybe this brain is saying that this is all just like different fragments of things floating through my conscious or unconscious mind. There's caulk, there's scrub pads, just sort of like, if things were feeling really absurd when the pandemic started, I think they still do. And I just sort of hit this point of like, there's so much time for indecision. I just need to do something. I don't care if it looks good. I just need to like just go, just do something, just lean into that absurdity that I feel like is happening, and see what comes of it. So I started doing that with just paint for a while as well. All these sort of impulsive moments. And there is just a lot going on. There's a lot of chaos. This is like leftover paint scraps that have been reincorporated. You see how like messy the studio is getting at this point. And paint is poured, paint is mixed together, and then sometimes this is left to dry for a week or so. Just want to point out another Gestalt moment. Most of the images have been separated, right? But when you put these together, how this is like an example of continuation, how a line would continue, and I enjoy sort of playing with those in a way that, like, obviously there's a lot of separation here, but like when this little moment happens in an actual piece, I just find that interesting, so thought I would share that. So that piece on the right here, developed in like this pink is just one line, 1 day's work. This one pouring of paint. This is a cast off, peeling off the paint from a paint tray after a job. Again, swirling paint and just dirt and everything else, but some subtle collage elements being added as well. So this is a detail shot of a later iteration where a lot of that earlier stuff had been cut up, but you see this green line here is still here from the circle that was here. So paint ended up turning this into an eye and adding a whole face here, but sort of collage influence, but not really that pure collage. But I can't say that my paintings are not influenced by collage. This is one where it's just purely paint, graphite, no real collage elements, no papers, but again, exploring, as I experimented in these other ways, I got just extremely interested in texture and sort of that non-linear adding and taking away and adding, and this is some detail shots of just pure abstraction, non-representation, pure flow state, like not trying to come up with any sort of imagery in particular, but just combining and taking away. And over the course of like several months or years, even, just to kind of be clear that like all of this is happening at the same time. And it's not just in paint. This is happening with items as well, forcing relationships and just doing these sort of nonsensical things like covering an orange in paint and letting it dry and then peeling it off and putting it in a bird's nest and putting a sewing pin through it and surrounding it with fiber fill as an element of a sculpture. And these are not glued or permanent or really, in my mind, considered pieces. I really think of these items that I'm going to show you as sort of like playthings. You see collage elements being applied to ceramics, and again, the masculine and feminine, the soft and the hard, and interior, exterior spaces, and just sort of like, okay, we have all these tick marks that are very neat and orderly, and then all of these ones that are more natural, and we don't know what happened to cause them. And you know, putting things, when I find a connection, putting them together and then just exploring, you know, where that takes me. So so this experimental phase I found did sort of like loosen me up creatively. And I think that a lot of what I learned here, by not really having any intention, is been reincorporated into works that I do consider like finished pieces, that I'll submit to gallery shows. And you know, I don't think I ever would have reached the point of doing something like this had I not been doing stuff like this. And the oops, sorry, I lost the slide. Okay, I'm back. So this is a piece that is, you know, reads as collage to me, but is in fact sculptural. There's, you know, sculptural elements and items, but also these collage elements and items and layers, and again, creating space and depth, and drawing someone in and creating a narrative that we don't quite know all the details to, but that holds enough visual interest to keep us looking at it, or at least speaking for myself. You know, more sort of explorations. This started as a painting, as a collage, as sort of just a place to dry my brush off, as a place to scrape paint, as a place to practice gradients when spray painting, all things that I may do in a larger project. And then this sat around as it is on the left side for several years. And, you know, there was this impulse to turn this painting into a sculpture, and without adding or subtracting anything, just by ripping it off of the frame, it now suddenly acknowledges the space that it's in, and is not presented just as like a 2D image, but more sculptural. Again, this feels like pretty experimental, and I also think of this as kind of like pseudo minimalist. Like it's not, there are like minimalists, you know, sculpture is, you know, light and industry, and there's not a lot going on here. So it could be, you know, big gray square could be incorporated as minimalist, but like the actual story and what's going on here is a lot more. And when I say story, I mean sort of just the steps that this process or this piece, these materials have gone through over the course of time. More examples of the ways that those textures found their way back into works that are more collage up front, more painting, more gradients. This piece here is another example of something that has resurfaced. I think this one is, you know, 6 or 7 years after its original iteration. You know, it now found its way to this piece. Its new home, its new chapters, new story. Some detail shots here. And, you know, things like this fire image, and then referencing, you know, a little bit of burning on the side of this image, tying elements together. Those little details I mentioned, this pearl and skull piece of jewelry kind of reads as one with that figure ground gestalt principles, but you know, not everyone is going to notice these, but people who do notice are going to get a different story than those who don't. And that to me is sort of like a reward or a point of interest. Yeah, lots of textures. So more examples of works in that vein. Again, still using fibers and soft and hard. And this time the interior and exterior space, this space to me feels like the inside of mind. The, you know, thoughts and anxieties or whatever may be going on, and this sort of chaotic elements, these chaotic elements over here, and then more sort of peace of mind, or maybe this is the zoom. If you zoom into what's happening in that light, you know, you might find what's happening over here. You can see things have been added and subtracted, taken away and repurposed, and all of the flame around this matchstick here is carved. this was a piece that was like fully these pastel-y colors, and then covered in gray and then carved out to get the flame. Moon imagery being repeated, that kind of thing, repetition. So that's a lot of my work, and I want to make sure that I speak on the ways that I use collage in community, and because that is also like a huge part of my creative practice, is like Jean said, like reaching out into community and doing things with other folks. So a lot of what that looks like is bringing collage activities to the youth. So here's some where we did self-portraits. This is through an organization called Paint Love that I work with, and their mission is to pair artists with nonprofits in the area for opportunities for sort of trauma-informed. They don't say art therapy, but it is informed by trauma and mental health, and takes a holistic view at the person who's taking an art workshop, and tries to incorporate age appropriate ways to process emotions. And so for this one we did self-portraits, and I just absolutely adore this image on the right. It's so fun, and was fun to talk about, and fun to see. And this little girl has like torn and tattered clothes, but it's not stopping her from this huge smile and spreading joy. And this activity was done at Kate's Club, which is a camp and after school program for children who have lost a caregiver or a parent. And so all of these kids have gone through a lot of like heavy emotional experiences, and here we have an opportunity to bring the arts to them, and to bring collage to them as a way to sort of process that, and to kind of, or even if it's not specifically focused on their experiences, it gives them a chance to kind of enter that flow state, and not think about it, not focus too much, to have a little fun, to be in community. And oftentimes when we're doing these activities, there's limited time. This is a 30-minute session, and you think about the materials of painting or drawing, or collage is so immediate that it works really well for these scenarios, and it's so accessible because you have the imagery already, and there's no skills gap. You don't have to study rendering, or obviously you can incorporate the principles of design that we use in any medium into collage, and have a really solid professional piece of collage work. But there's an immediacy and an accessibility that makes collage an activity that to me feels universal. There's not a lot of cost involved. There's not a lot of commitment, because these are low stakes materials. So another example of just sort of like collage, this one with fabric, but bringing sort of collage time to the youth through different like summer camps or group activities. And this is, we were creating backgrounds and stories and characters. This one doesn't quite get the character in a sense that was intended, but that's totally fine. That's another thing that about collage, right, is that this person creates this energy in this environment, and these folks are all like under the age of 10. So those are kind of straightforward. Let's do collage, and we make a collage, but that collage thinking can be applied to a lot more complex ideas and activities. And so I want to show you one that's called Beautiful Destruction. This is an activity I ran when I was working at Friends Camp in South China, Maine, where there's a week-long activity. So it's an overnight camp, and we're staying with the kids, and these were all like the preteen age into like the early teen years. And what we did was use collage as a means to rearrange narrative, and to take narratives that are tried, that like the beauty industry tries to like force down young people's throats, and rearranging that narrative and not accepting that as the narrative, creating our own stories, and also creating art that doesn't have to be beautiful. and it doesn't have to be displayed. And so what we did was make a pinata, a giant heart-shaped pinata, and covered it with images from beauty magazines. And, we all sat around a table and talked about, how these images make us feel and how these stories are told and shared experiences, and really just allowing the campers to kind of guide the conversation, not trying to force anything down their throats, but giving them the parameters in which to work with. So we made this giant pinata. We filled it with nice notes and affirmations to one another and thoughts about our conversation, and just sort of what we called warm fuzzies, like something you read and you just get that little fuzzy warm feeling inside of you. And so we all took turns with the bat to destroy this thing that we made that, was reflective of beauty standards and media and how that influences us. And then we ripped it up, shared our warm fuzzies around a campfire while we burned the rest of the piñata. So like collage, but just like to the extreme, maxed out, like wildly, just wild and free and destruction and creation all in one. So just as an example of like collage thinking applied to more sort of serious topics, more fun activities. So and this is the last project I want to share. I'm not sure, I feel like I'm hitting about an hour now, so I appreciate y'all still with me. And this is also through Paint Love, but Paint Love was contacted by an organization called World 50, who functions to get the like world's thought leaders in the room together. And the company had a conference for all of its employees as they were doing a merger, and they wanted a presentation on creativity and collaboration. So we sat everybody at round tables and tasked them with completely covering the canvases with paint. But there was things like they weren't allowed to use the same brush more than once. And so they had to trade canvases or smush canvases together to share paint and to collaborate in this way that's like really low stakes. And each table was responsible for 10 images, even if there was only 8 people at a table. And I curated the colors and the scraps of paper based on where people were sitting, and they were instructed to share scraps and to give each other the cast-offs of shapes that they cut out, and to think abstractly and just to move and to not analyze too much, and not to say, well, I'm not really an artist, or I don't really do things like this, and just sort of say like, well, let's just give it a try in a way that like it's not going to have your name attached to it. This is all of us together. We'll find sort of the medium. And there's about 300 people in the workshop. 50 of them were in New York City joining us via a live stream. And again, in a limited time, in about an hour, we were able to facilitate this like incredible large mural that wasn't just like, okay, here's a cup of yellow paint and I want you to paint that shape there yellow, and this is a collaboration because we all worked on it. It like really gave people a chance to communicate and to try something new and to be creative and to try something that might not work, and to make something that might not be quote unquote a beautiful image, but to see how all of these actions come together, all the interactions and all the actions can come together to create something that is reflective of the entire community and reflective of everyone's action and interaction and the shared moments. And there's similarities to be found here, and there's differences. And how can we take those low stakes interactions and these low stakes experiments and then apply the lessons from that to this larger organization, right? How can we have conversations about our own differences and similarities and work styles and the way we want things to go to reach a point where we're all feel seen and heard. And I think this piece sort of captures that. And, we had a lot of conversations about how the playing field was leveled, and you had senior executives sitting with members of the design team and members of the communications team and people that they normally would never interact with. all with a common goal in the room. And this, you know, these pieces were all taken and arranged, and you can kind of see how like table 1 had like these colors and table 2 had like these colors, and the thought was like, obviously some colors will mix, but I was hopeful that I could just like create a gradient by the end of it. So you can, you know, there's a lot of repetition here too in the squares and the smaller, you know, pieces, and then, you know, bigger squares, looking at 4 at a time, or looking at 9 at a time, or looking at all, you know, there's just a wealth of information here, and eventually these will be installed in their corporate offices. So that is pretty much it from me. So yeah, I thank you for taking the time to listen to me babble about my work, and the way that collage has influenced my larger creative practice, and my worldview, and the way that I show up in space, and the way that I sort of offer myself to others. So I'm gonna stop sharing so that I can see y'all again. And
Wow. Wow, AP, that was fantastic. Your
Thank
whole
you.
process is just, you know, mind blowing, which I think that some of us maybe can relate to parts of what you were talking about, especially, you know, just putting things together and hoping it'll work out, and, you know, taking old work and reprocessing it. But it was just delightful and wonderful. And we'll see, Carol, if there's any questions that were asked that.
Yes, we had a couple. And just amazing, amazing work. Let me check and see who it was, but I think it was Penny who asked about whether you use original images or make a copy.
Yeah, these are I'm pretty sure everything I showed was original images. You know, in the case of like the flyer that I made, where I did make a copy and then print, some of those scraps may find themselves into a future work, but it's pretty much all just like whatever I can get my hands on.
No, good. Anything else? Any other questions we'd like to ask AP? Anybody? Well, any comments that you'd like? Was there some comments that we could read?
Carol, you're muted.
Oh, unmute yourself if you have some.
Am I unmuted now? Yes, I think I'm unmuted, but I did a temporary.
Oh, you're muted again.
Okay, do a complete. Oops, just a second. I've lost my full screen. Woo, where did I go? Okay, let me go through the chat. Let's see, going from the beginning. Well, we have a lot in here, right? Okay, let's just give me a minute here. Get past this into. Okay, also, Jean wanted you to post an image of the wall in your workroom with a tin can and whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It had moss and a blue ball.
Okay.
I want to see it again.
Let me get back to it.
Or send it, you know, you can post it later.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
Really.
that'll work. And let me see just a second. Oh, and Penny wanted to know with the maps there at Thomas Guide. It looked like a Thomas Guide with the one where you had with the Coca-Cola and the.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and,
remember those physical maps?
Right. And anyway, I think everybody was just astounded with your Paint Love organization. I personally was involved with a similar type of thing in LA called Art Pals, working with the Title I kids. And I know how cathartic art is and how wonderful it is. And your organization sounds fantastic. And my one comment is all the world leaders who hate each other should get together with you guys and work on a project.
I was impressed too with the projects. I like the collage and destroying it idea very much. I also worked with children and especially challenged kids for a long time and as an artist in schools and doing all sorts of different kinds of art projects, but the collage is really very effective. And I was totally impressed with that large project that you did with a patchwork. I mean, that is really effective and beautiful. And I'm sure those children were really enriched by that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Paint Love is really great. I encourage y'all to kind of look up and see what they're doing. They're doing that's like just the smallest little sliver of what they've got going, but
yeah, really impressed with getting them to inspire conversation, as you said. It was lovely. Anybody else have
Anybody else want to unmute yourself and comment, make
Just a
comments?
little,
At this
a little
point, everybody
blurb.
could unmute themselves.
A little blurb from Jean. We're going to make sure that everybody gets his website information and whatever information AP wants to share with us about materials and how to contact him. Somebody suggested that he get a hold of the Collage people, and I think they already know each other. Am I right?
Sort of. I went to Collage Fest in Knoxville where we met. Whenever that was, 2021.
Yeah.
And they're still on my radar. I'm not sure if I'm on their radar, but I got a lot going on. Not worried about it. But yeah, I appreciate the suggestion.
Okay, I see a comment. It says, AP, so much talent and even better an ability to share and articulate your process and mindset. Very appreciated. This was from Patrice.
Yes.
Thank you, Patrice.
Let's see if there's any others in here. Thank you for your wonderful presentation today, sharing your process and your work, from Abigail.
Sweet.
And Sean says, I love how you curated the colors on the mural.
This was wonderful.
Thank you. I
And
had a good time.
Fantastic.
yes, so thank you so much. Let's give them a collage.
Yeah, thanks so much, AP. It was just very inspiring.
Again, we appreciate that you jumped in at the last minute, and your presentation was so well organized and interesting. We really enjoyed and appreciate you.
Sweet. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to continued conversations, and I've enjoyed every interaction so far, so I'm excited to learn more from y'all.
Thank you.
Anyway, so why don't we can open it. We can open our meeting now to a conversation. Or Carol, where are we on time?
Okay, where we are is, I'm not sure how to unmute everybody, but if you would unmute yourselves and want to chat amongst yourselves, and we can leave the meeting open as long as anybody would like to just chit chat with one another. And
You want to stop the recording?
I can stop the recording right now. No, Barbara has to stop it. Let me call her. I'm going to put my, because she's the one doing the recording. I'll get back. I'm just going to mute myself. Everybody, please unmute yourselves.
Okay, let me just say thank you for everyone for attending. And as we said, continue with the chat afterwards. But thank you for being here today. And thank you again to AP. And we will conclude our meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, AP.
Thank you all.
It's great.
I'm going to stick around if other folks are sticking around for a little bit.
I have a question. Can you hear me? I don't know.